Sometimes a single word can change everything. It can turn a normal day into a moment of panic. It wasn't a joke to me then. It felt like a heavy weight on my chest. This is the story of my first day in Milan. My name is Leila. I am 26 years old. I come from England. I have always loved the idea of travel. I dream of seeing new places and meeting new people, but sometimes the reality is harder than the dream. This trip was special. It was my first time traveling alone in Europe. I was excited, but deep down, I was also terrified. I wanted to take pictures. I wanted to try new food. But most of all, I wanted to prove something to myself. I wanted to prove that I could do it, that I could speak English and be understood. I learned English in school. I am still learning. My English is not perfect, and that thought keeps me awake at night. If you enjoy stories about real feelings and real life, please subscribe to English Story Avenue. Share this with a friend who understands the struggle of learning. Leave a comment and tell me if you have ever felt lonely in a new place. My journey started in the quiet of the early morning. The world was still dark. My flight was very early, and I hadn't slept. I felt the nervous energy in my stomach. I packed my bag and took a taxi to the airport. The airport was a sea of strangers. There were so many people, yet I felt completely alone. I waited in line holding my passport tight. The woman at the desk smiled, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. She gave me my ticket. I found my gate and sat down. I watched the planes outside. I felt small. After an hour, I boarded the plane. It was huge. I found my seat by the window. I looked out at the gray tarmac. I tried to smile, but the fear was there. I was leaving my comfort zone. The flight was long. I slept, but it was a restless sleep. I watched the clouds below me. They looked soft, but I felt hard and tense. I looked at the people around me. They talked and laughed. I wondered if I would ever feel that relaxed. Finally, the plane landed. We were in Milan. I took a deep breath. I walked to the exit, following the crowd. The signs were in Italian. The words looked beautiful but alien. I was tired, not just in my body, but in my mind. Outside the airport, the air was different. I saw the line of taxis. I checked my phone. I had the address of a small room I had booked. I didn't book a hotel. I wanted something simple. I opened the app. I waited near a bench, clutching my suitcase. I felt vulnerable. A man approached me. "Taxi?" he asked. I showed him my phone. He looked at the address. He nodded. "Okay, let's go." I got into the back seat. It was warm, but I felt a chill. I put my bag next to me. The driver started the car. He looked at me in the mirror. "First time in Milan?" he asked. I nodded. Yes. He asked where I was from. "England," I whispered. "Welcome to Milan," he said kindly. "Thank you," I replied. Then, trying to be brave, I tried to speak. I wanted to tell him I was tired. I wanted to connect. I said, "I want to rest." The driver looked confused. He looked in the mirror again. He didn't look amused. He looked puzzled. "You want to wrestle?" My heart sank. The air in the car felt heavy. "No," I said, my voice shaking. "I want to rest. To sleep." He laughed then. "Ah, rest, not wrestle." He laughed loudly. I tried to laugh too, but I couldn't. I felt my face burn. It wasn't funny to me. It felt like a failure. Did I say it wrong? Was my English that bad? I wanted to disappear. I wanted to be invisible. The driver smiled, but I felt a distance between us. "Funny mistake," he said. I looked out the window. I didn't want to speak anymore. The car moved through the streets. We passed beautiful shops and old buildings. We passed a park. The sky was blue, but I couldn't see the beauty. I felt gray inside. I looked out the window, trying to hold back tears. Why was it so hard? Why couldn't I just say one word correctly? I took out my phone to distract myself. I wanted to take a picture, but the battery was at 5%. The driver kept talking. He said, "My cousin is a wrestler. He is strong." I nodded, but I wasn't listening. I just wanted the ride to end. I just wanted to be safe in my room. I checked the map on my phone. We were close, but then the screen went black. My phone died. The panic rose in my throat. I was lost. I didn't know the way. The driver asked, "Is this the right street?" I looked around. I didn't recognize anything. "I don't know," I said, my voice trembling. "My phone is dead." The driver stopped the car. He looked at his phone. He couldn't find the address. "I will ask someone," he said. He rolled down the window. He spoke to a man on the street. The man pointed. "It is the other way," the driver translated. He looked at me. "I went the wrong way." He smiled gently. "Don't worry, we will find it." I nodded, but I felt tears stinging my eyes. I was scared. We drove again. The streets were a maze. I felt trapped. After 5 minutes, we stopped. "This is it," he said. I looked out. It didn't look right. There was no sign. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Yes," he said. I paid him and got out. I stood on the sidewalk. The taxi drove away. I was alone. My phone was dead. I was in a strange city. I sat on the steps of the building. I put my head in my hands. I felt so small. I felt the weight of the mistake pressing on me. I told myself to breathe. Stay calm, Leila, I whispered. I waited. After 10 minutes, a man opened the door. I looked up, feeling desperate. Do you know this address? I asked. He shook his head. No, sorry. I felt my heart break a little. I picked up my bag. I felt the weight of it. I walked to the next street. I looked at the numbers. I walked slowly, my legs heavy. Then I saw it. The brown door. The right number. I checked the picture in my mind. It was the place. I didn't smile. I just felt relief wash over me. I rang the bell. A man opened the door. Are you Leila? He asked. Yes, I said, my voice barely a whisper. He smiled. Welcome. You are here now. Thank you, I said. I walked inside. The room was small. I sat on the bed. I felt so tired. I didn't want to laugh. I wanted to cry. One wrong word, one small sound. It made me feel so lost. It made me feel like I didn't belong. I closed my eyes and lay back. My body was tired. My mind was tired. I thought about the taxi. I thought about the driver's face. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was painful. I was afraid to speak again. I was afraid to try. I looked around the quiet room. I felt safe, but I also felt lonely. I found my charger and plugged in my phone. The screen turned on. I had no messages. I checked the map. I was in the right place. I looked out the window. People were walking. They looked like they knew where they were going. They looked like they belonged. I wanted to sleep, but I knew I couldn't hide forever. I drank some water. I changed my clothes. I decided to go out. I didn't want to waste the day, even if I was sad. I walked out the door. The street was sunny. The buildings were tall and beautiful. The sky was blue. I took a deep breath. I started walking. I walked for 10 minutes. I found a small cafe. People were sitting outside. I sat at a table. A woman came to me. She spoke Italian. I felt the fear again. I smiled weakly. Sorry, I speak English. She nodded. No problem. What would you like? I took a chance. Do you have tea? I asked clearly. Yes. Hot or cold? Hot, please. I waited. I looked around. The world seemed gentle here. The tea came. I held the cup. The warmth felt good. I opened my notes app. I wrote, Day 1. I got lost. I made a mistake. But I am here. I didn't smile, but I felt a little stronger. After tea, I walked more. I went to the shopping street. I saw big shops. I didn't buy anything. I just watched. I saw people holding hands. I saw friends laughing. I felt a pang of loneliness. I tried to listen to their words. I didn't understand much. I walked back to my room as the sun went down. The streets were busy. I walked slowly. I found my street. I found the big red door. I went inside. I sat on the bed. I looked at my phone. A message from my friend Sarah. "Did you arrive?" I sent a photo. "Yes," I wrote. "It was hard. I made a mistake. I felt stupid." She replied quickly, "You are not stupid. You are brave. You are there." I read her words again. "You are brave." I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Not a sad tear this time. A proud tear. I looked online. I searched for the difference between rest and wrestle. I listened to the sounds. Rest. Wrestle. They were different. I realized it wasn't my fault. It was just a sound. Just a word. I listened again. I said rest 5 times. I said wrestle. I didn't laugh. I just understood. It is easy to mix them. I found other word pairs. Beach and peach. Walk and work. I read them out loud. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be understood. I realized that learning is not easy. It is a struggle. It is a fight. But it is a fight worth fighting. I remembered the driver. He wasn't mean. He just didn't understand. And that is okay. I decided to go out one last time. I walked to a small square. People were sitting and talking. I sat on a bench. The sky was orange and pink. Birds were flying. A man played guitar. He sang a sad, beautiful song. I sat there. I let the music wash over me. The mistake in the taxi wasn't the end. It was just a moment of fear, a moment of confusion. But I survived it. I stayed in the square until it was dark. I walked back to my room. I felt safe. I felt a new kind of strength. Not the strength of being perfect, the strength of trying. I climbed the stairs. I lay on the bed. I thought about my day. I traveled alone. I got lost. I made a mistake. I felt weak, but I kept going. I turned off the light. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow I will try again. I will speak again. I will listen again. And I will remember this. Mistakes hurt, but they also teach us. They teach us to be kind to ourselves. The next morning I woke up. The sun was bright. I felt better. The heavy feeling was lighter. I was ready. I opened the window. I heard the birds. I washed my face. I packed my bag. I went to the big church. It was beautiful. It stood tall and strong. I stood in front of it. I felt small, but I also felt part of the world. I walked around. I saw a man selling hats. He looked at me. "You like this one?" I hesitated. I remembered the taxi. I was afraid to speak, but then I took a breath. "Yes," I said clearly. "It looks nice." He smiled. Try it." I put it on. "Perfect," he said. I smiled. A real smile. I bought the hat. I walked on. I wasn't afraid of the sounds anymore. I wasn't afraid of the mistakes. I knew that even if I fell, I could get up. This was my story. It wasn't a funny story. It was a human story. And for the first time, I was proud of my voice.